Let's go to Queensland now and catch up with Nationals MP, former Resources Minister Keith Pitt, joining us from Bundaberg. Good to talk to you again, Keith. This is pretty ugly politics, especially when Chris Fully says there'll be no change under the law, especially, of course, when all these issues are always decided by conscience votes. Is this an American wedge issue to try and frighten especially female voters back to Labor?
Chris, it's even worse than that. It's clearly a scare tactic. And I've been on the pre-poll here where the Labor member for Bundaberg, and this is exactly what I heard, is saying things like, don't let Bree Watson, our Liberal National Party candidate for Bundaberg, jail women and girls for having an abortion. I mean, it is disgraceful. The idea that this is even something that you would run as a sloganeering campaign in an election, and you would pull up a voter who you don't know their history, you don't know what's happened to them personally, you don't know how many tough decisions they might have had to make, and to use it on the booth, I just think it's been absolutely disgraceful in the last couple of weeks. Something that is so personal and so sensitive. I think Labor should hang their heads in shame, and they should be voted out, Chris.
But this is deliberate, this is organised. We can show you the posters that they've been putting up at polling booths that say a vote for LMP is a vote to make abortion a crime. So this is very highly organised, very deliberate by Labor, and they will be expecting a dividend at the ballot box. They will expect that this works. We've seen the polls shift to Labor during the campaign. Are you worried about the impact of this?
Absolutely, Chris. And this is a very bad Labor government. Queensland needs a fresh start. The only way to do that is to vote for the Liberal National Party. And yet we see these scare campaigns trying to put second thoughts into the minds of voters just as they walk into the booth. I thought when I saw pictures of me as the devil in the last federal campaign, I'd seen the worst of it. But this is much worse, Chris. Why would you use something like this? I know they're desperate, but it's just so low rent. It's so very, very ordinary. It's such a poor reflection on Queensland Labor. And I think their local members, they really don't like this approach.
All right, just very quickly, I want to get on to the economic debate. Costings are out today. Let's have a look at what some of the leaders had to say.
Today is the day they have to outline where the cuts will come from. The money has to come from somewhere. They've tried their best to hide their cuts for as long as they possibly can, but today is the day they have to outline what they will cut.
I confirm the Liberal National Government will not be borrowing to fund our election promises, thereby flattening Labor's debt trajectory across the Fords. Debt will be lower under an LNP government.
Just quickly on Keith, on this, Keith, is it going to be a big issue? I mean, surely Labor's not going to be running on any agenda of economic responsibility. That's just not going to fly, right?
Well, Labor said outright that you'll have a debt of $170 billion. They just borrow it all. But the Queensland MP, they've said that they won't do the pumped hydro in central Queensland. That is over $10 billion straight up. That's a pretty easy decision, but you've got to get in and see the books. We've seen it so many times, Chris, and I know you have. What Labor put forward is just never true. It's never accurate, and things are always much, much worse when we get into government than we expected. David Janeski will be a great Queensland treasurer. They should be voted from the...
Let's hope he gets to find out. Thanks for joining us, Keith. I appreciate it. Election this Saturday, of course, all the coverage here on Sky News.